Hi, I'm John Pope. I went and saw the movie Unbroken, which is a phenomenal movie. I don't know why it didn't get considered for Best Picture nomination. Unbroken is about the story of Louis Zamperini, who is an Olympic athlete who unfortunately gets drafted to serve his country during World War II. I say unfortunately because the fact that he's such a gifted athlete, it would have been awesome to see what his Olympic story would have looked like had the war not come to about. In any event, Louis in the Pacific with his crew, and one of the assignments they get ushered into is to rescue some persons who are stranded out in the Pacific Ocean. Well, ironically enough, they go out into the Pacific Ocean and they end up in the water themselves. And unfortunately, out of this crew, about 10, only 3 of them survive. This happens to be part 1 of a 3-part act that you get to see in Unbroken. At this point, Unbroken turns into a movie similar to Castaway, where Tom Hanks is on an island all by himself. Maybe a little bit like Life of Pi, where he's in the boat out in the ocean all by himself. So you get this sense that these 3 gentlemen are trying to survive, which they definitely are. Survive the elements, survive the sharks, survive on some level each other. And so there's a wide variety of challenges as they have to go through. Well, finally, after a good 30 minutes into the movie, they finally get rescued. Yay for them, right? Well, not necessarily, because it turns out that it's a boat from Imperial Japan. So now we go into phase 2 of this movie, and Louis and the only other partner that survives now end up being prisoners of war. So in this part 2 of this movie, we get to see what it's like in the concentration camp. And this is where Louis gets to come across his antagonist, who I think is a very, very central part of this movie, Sergeant Watanabe, who in historic real life was a pretty brutal person to be under the care of. He was pretty much known for breaking ribs, breaking jaws, being very, very brutal. It was suggested in the movie and in some of the other reading I did that he came from a very, very well-off family, and because of some health issues was not able to fulfill some of the desires and dreams that his family had, and that he had for himself. So anyway, we get to see the tension between Louis and Sergeant Watanabe throughout the entirety of the rest of this movie. As the movie goes on, Louis gets the opportunity, because of his giftedness as a runner, to settle into Tokyo if he's willing to read some things that are anti-American. Apparently this was a practice during World War II that I didn't realize, and it even flashed to some what we might consider traitors who sold themselves, so to speak, to live in the comforts of Tokyo, Japan, as opposed to being in the concentration camps where Louis and other soldiers that we meet find themselves. As we get further into part 2 of this movie, Sergeant Watanabe gets a promotion, and so we think we're not going to see him anymore, right? Well, we're wrong. Towards the end of this part 2 of this movie, the Allies begin bombing around the concentration camp where Louis and his comrades find themselves. So, unfortunately, the Japanese army at that point decide that they're going to move the concentration camp prisoners to another location, where this is where we get into phase number 3 of this movie, and it gets even more difficult. Now this time, Louis and his companions find themselves in a coal area where we unfortunately get to see people die. Some of the tasks and challenges of this movie are overwhelming, and guess who pops up? Sergeant Watanabe. So, where he said to Louis face to face, "Hey, I'm getting a promotion." From the looks of things, from the way I was gathering things, while he got a promotion in name only, it looked like the concentration camp he got sent to was a little bit of a step down. So we get to the end of this movie, and maybe some of you have seen the picture of Louis' character hoisting the board up above his head. That's one of the photos that you see prominent in the advertising throughout the movie theaters. That is the apex of this entire movie. 2 wills, Watanabe's and Louis', are fighting one another. Long story short, Louis' character ends up winning, and it's Watanabe's character who becomes and feels humiliated. As the war ends, as the Allies come in, Louis actually goes upstairs to make amends with Watanabe. And it's at this point that Watanabe takes off. And according to some documentation, and it was illustrated in the movie, that Watanabe stayed in hiding for 7 years. And even to this day, where there have been reunions and reconciliation events between American and Japanese soldiers, Watanabe, also known as the Bird, has been nowhere to be found and has not come to any of these things. While this movie is about forgiveness, I think that the core of this movie is about wills. About the fact that Louis was willing to lend a hand out, not only for forgiveness, but from my standpoint, I felt very sorry for Watanabe, because he was trying to live up to something that was only out of a sense of power, but not a sense of who he really was internally. I think Watanabe had a lot of suffering, a lot of pain for not living up to the wealthy, ambitious environment that he may have been in. I think Louis, by reaching out his hand, allows an opportunity for Watanabe to begin to put his life back together again. Very symbolic of Japan putting their lives back together after the end of World War II. This is an excellent movie. There's a lot to think about. One of the other things I walked away with thinking was just the fact of people coming together to fight for a cause. And we've not had that kind of a coming together in the U.S. since World War II. Korea, we had a little bit of a togetherness, but especially Vietnam, and since everything and everybody has been so divided on which aisle you're on of the conflict. My hope is, when you see this movie, is that you'll understand what it means to come together, to sacrifice, to really embrace the pain and suffering and the circumstances that are present before a person. I don't see really any flaws in this movie. I do think it should have been up for Academy Award. The only, I guess it's to be nitpicky, is that there were a few flashbacks to his development as an Olympic athlete, but again, I think you need to see that, to see how he's able to build the toughness that he has, that endures throughout the rest of this whole movie. This movie is it's been out since Christmas. There are very few places here in Kansas City they're showing it, so if you want to see this movie, you better hightail it and get to it. Again, my name's John Pope. I've entitled this clip Real Movies for Real People, and I am so glad that you came in here and watched this. I've been excited to put this, now my second video, together, and I know that there's a lot of work to do, and I thank you so much for hanging in there. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button at the bottom of this. Feel free to pass it along to your friends on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. I plan to do, I said I wasn't going to do movies that I had already seen over the last couple of weeks, but I did see Paddington Bear, and I think it's a fantastic movie. So I'm going to do a review on Paddington Bear tomorrow. So look forward to that. And Thursday, I don't know if I'll necessarily do 3 each week, but there's something extra special happening Thursday night that I definitely want to share with you, my audience. So again, my name's John Pope, and I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. If you'd like to get in touch with me, it's jonpope@hotmail.com. jonpope at Facebook, Kansas City. Any way you want to get a hold of me, please feel free to check in. You have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.